Every morning, I wake up to a sense of quiet dread that's become almost routine. It's not about the day's tasks or the mundane errands I have to run, it's about money. The numbers in my bank account never seem to add up to what I need, and the costs keep climbing, faster and faster, like a cruel race I'm doomed to lose. I'm 26, and for years I've felt like I'm trapped in a financial vice. I work full-time, sometimes 2 jobs, but despite the hours, despite the sweat, it feels like the system is stacked against me. Rent is a monster swallowing half my paycheck. Groceries cost more than they should. Utilities rise every season, like a sneaky thief creeping in when I'm not paying close enough attention. And then there's healthcare, student loans, car repairs, each one a weight added to my back. The strangest thing is that my income is almost stagnant. Raises come in tiny increments, barely keeping pace with inflation. Meanwhile, the price of just about everything is rising faster than I can budget for it. Every month, I have to make hard decisions. Do I pay this bill fully or cut back on groceries? Can I afford the bus fare, or do I have to start walking an hour each way again? Should I postpone my phone bill payment, risking late fees and blackouts? These questions aren't hypothetical, they're my reality. This constant balancing act is exhausting. It isn't just the numbers, it's the mental load. I find myself anxious almost all the time, haunted by what-ifs. What if the rent goes up again? What if I lose one of my jobs? What if an emergency comes up? This pressure never fully leaves me. It creeps into my relationships. I avoid invitations because socializing costs money, and I'm embarrassed when I have to say no. I feel isolated, stuck in a lonely cycle where money controls everything. I cope the best I can. I'm meticulous with my budget, every dollar accounted for, every cent tracked. I've learned to live extremely frugally. Cooking from scratch, shopping sales, cutting out all non-essentials. I borrow instead of buying. I avoid medical appointments unless it's urgent. Sometimes I sacrifice sleep to work extra hours. I try to remind myself to breathe, to focus on the small wins, like managing to save $21 month or negotiating a slightly lower rent increase. But those small victories often feel hollow compared to the mountain ahead. What hurts the most, though, is how many dreams I've had to set aside. When I was younger, I imagined moving into my own place, maybe even buying a home one day. I dreamed of traveling, seeing parts of the world beyond my city's limits. I thought about going back to school to build a better career. But those plans seem like luxuries now, unreachable because every penny I make is swallowed by immediate needs. I postponed buying a car, a real phone, dental work I desperately need, and even moments of rest because I can't afford to stop. It's hard to put into words how it feels to live like this, caught in a system where expenses are relentless, and income feels like a trickle. It's a suffocating feeling, a daily reminder that no matter how hard you work, you might never get ahead. And it's deeply lonely, too. Sometimes I wonder if anyone really understands the pressure, the fear, the fatigue. Yet, despite it all, I hold on to hope. Hope that this won't be my forever. Hope that one day, the economy will shift or I'll find a new opportunity. Hope that I can reclaim my dreams instead of just postponing them indefinitely. I want to believe that my story isn't just about survival but about eventually thriving. This is my truth, raw, vulnerable, and real. It's not easy to admit, but maybe sharing it helps someone else feel less alone. Maybe it's a small step toward change, a way to bring light to the struggles many of us face quietly. Until then, I'll keep fighting, keep managing, keep hoping for a day when financial pressure no longer defines my life. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I can't even remember the last time I felt truly free with my money. Not the kind of free that lets you go out on a whim, grab dinner with friends, or buy something just because it makes you happy. No, what I feel now is the opposite, a constant tightness, like I'm suffocating under the weight of bills that seem to get bigger every month, while my paycheck barely moves. I'm 27, working a full-time job I thought would be the start of something better. But the truth is, every month feels like a test I'm barely passing. Rent is a monster that devours nearly half my income. Utilities have crept up steadily, electricity, internet, water, they all seem to rise like tides, and I'm struggling just to keep my head above water. Food prices? I swear I'm paying twice as much as I used to for the same groceries. Gas and transit costs keep climbing, and if my car breaks down, I don't even want to think about the repair bills. The worst part is the feeling of being trapped. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up, and no matter how fast I run, I'm not getting anywhere. Expenses spiral ahead, growing faster than I can catch them with my income. I try to save, to cut back on things that aren't essential, but even then, the small pile of money I manage to set aside evaporates quickly. Unexpected expenses, medical bills, or just the cost of staying alive in a city that's getting more expensive by the day. This economic squeeze bleeds into everything. On good days, I tell myself I'm doing my best, that I'm responsible and disciplined. On bad days, it feels like I'm failing. I get anxious about money almost constantly. Sometimes I wake up at night, heart racing, wondering how I'm going to pay rent or if I should pick up extra shifts to cover a looming bill. The stress crushes my self-esteem. It's humiliating to admit, but I feel ashamed when I can't afford the things my friends do without a second thought, going to concerts, eating out, or even traveling. Social isolation is another cost I pay. I say no to invitations more than I say yes, which makes me feel invisible and alone. I worry that people think I'm boring or stingy, but the truth is, I just can't afford to be anything else. Sometimes, I pretend everything's fine, smile and laugh, while inside I'm tallying every dollar I'll spend that night. It's exhausting. I've had to put so many dreams on hold. Buying my own place, going back to school, starting a family, these feel like distant mirages. Even little things like saving for a vacation or investing in my hobbies feel impossible. I remind myself to be patient, that things will change someday. But that hope feels fragile, and sometimes it's hard to hold on to when every day feels like survival. To cope, I've learned to be resourceful. I meal prep constantly, hunt for discounts, and live by a strict budget. I work overtime when I can, freelance on weekends, and sometimes take on side gigs that leave me exhausted but pay a few extra bucks. I've grown skilled at saying no and prioritizing bills over anything else. It's a grind, but it keeps me afloat. Yet, underneath the fatigue and frustration, I still dream. I dream of a life where I'm not chained to my finances, where I can say yes more than no, where I don't feel like money controls my every move. I want stability, freedom, and a chance to breathe without constant worry. I want to believe that this system, which seems designed to keep me struggling, can change or that I can find a way out. Until then, I keep moving forward, day by day, holding on to those quiet hopes, and reminding myself that I'm more than my bank balance. I'm still here. I'm still trying. And one day, I hope, I'll look back and see how far I've come. I never thought I'd end up feeling like this, stuck in a loop where every day is a balancing act, and the scale always tips against me. It's hard to explain unless you're living it, this constant pressure of watching prices climb like they're on some relentless elevator going up while my paycheck barely budges. I'm 26, working full-time, and yet somehow, I feel like I'm running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, and no matter how fast I move, I don't get anywhere. It started a few years ago, after college. I was hopeful, even excited, to finally be out on my own, earning money, building a life. But reality hit hard. Rent shot up in my city, groceries cost more every month, and then there was insurance, utilities, transportation, the list of expenses felt endless. My salary has gone up a little since then, but nowhere near the rate that everything else has inflated. Some months, I've had to skip things, even basics. There were weeks I ate just the cheapest food I could find, sometimes repeating meals just to stretch the budget. I remember sitting at my tiny kitchen table one evening, staring at a stack of bills and trying to figure out how to make them fit in the money I had. I felt a wave of panic so strong it made my hands tremble. The numbers never matched. It was like I was fighting against an invisible force designed to keep me down. I didn't want to ask for help or admit to anyone how tight things were, because I felt ashamed. Like somehow, I should be able to handle it better. But it wasn't about personal failure, it was about a system that doesn't seem to care about people like me, young adults trying to make it work. Some days, the stress feels like a heavy weight pressing on my chest. I get anxious when my phone buzzes with a notification from my bank app. I avoid looking at my account because I know it'll just remind me how little I have left after rent and bills. I can't tell you how many times I've lied to friends about why I can't join them for dinner or a night out. I don't want to be that person, the one who always says no because they can't afford it. But it's the truth. Even the thought of spending $20 on a movie ticket or a night out feels like a luxury I can't justify. So I stay home. Again. There's a loneliness in this struggle, a feeling of being isolated even when surrounded by people. Everyone else seems to be moving forward, buying homes, traveling, saving for the future, while I'm just trying to keep my head above water. I know people in my generation who have been crushed under debt, who've had to move back with their parents after losing jobs or dealing with unexpected expenses. I'm scared that's where I'm headed too, even though I've done my best to avoid it. It's like this tightrope walk where one small misstep could send me tumbling. But I don't want this to be a story of despair. I try to find ways to cope. I've gotten creative with budgeting, cutting back on everything that isn't absolutely necessary. I've learned to cook from scratch, which has saved me some money and given me a small sense of control. I keep a journal where I write down my worries and dreams, even when they feel impossible. Sometimes I binge-watch shows late at night, a brief escape from the weight of it all. And sometimes, I allow myself to dream quietly, even if those dreams seem far away. I used to imagine my life differently. I dreamed of traveling, seeing new places, and having enough savings to take a real vacation without guilt. I pictured owning a cozy apartment filled with plants, maybe a dog, and friends dropping by for dinner parties. I thought about going back to school someday, maybe for something I love, not just something practical. But these days, those dreams feel like distant stars, beautiful, but so far away they might as well be out of reach. It hurts to admit that I've had to postpone so much. I've put off seeing a therapist, even though I know I need help with the anxiety. I've delayed making bigger life decisions, like whether to move to a cheaper city or invest in further education, because the immediate pressure takes all my energy. And sometimes, I wonder if I'm being realistic or just settling for survival when I could be reaching for something better. What keeps me going is the hope that this isn't permanent. That one day, the economy will stabilize, wages will catch up, and I'll finally have space to breathe, to save, to build, to live beyond just scraping by. I tell myself that the struggle now will teach me resilience, that this tough chapter will make me stronger. I remind myself that I'm not alone, even if it feels that way. There are others out there juggling the same pressures, trying to keep their heads above water too. It's hard to talk openly about this kind of financial stress, because it feels personal but is actually systemic. But here I am, trying to be honest, because maybe if more people understood, things could start to change. Maybe if we stop pretending this is just about bad money management, we'd start addressing the root causes, the rising costs, the stagnant wages, the fragile safety nets. For now, I'll keep taking it day by day, trying to find small moments of joy amid the struggle. I'll keep dreaming, even if quietly, because dreams are what keep us human. And I hope that someday soon, those dreams won't feel so far out of reach. Until then, I carry this weight, but I'm still walking forward, sometimes slow, sometimes trembling, but moving all the same. If you're feeling this too, you're not alone. It's okay to admit it's hard. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. And it's okay to hope for better. Because we deserve that. A young adult navigating the maze of economic pressure, one day at a time. I never thought I'd end up feeling like this, caught in a grind where every step forward feels like wading through quicksand. I'm 27 now, working full-time, doing everything right by most people's standards, steady job, trying to save a little, paying off debts bit by bit. But no matter how hard I work or how careful I am, the money just doesn't stretch far enough anymore. It's like the world keeps moving faster, the prices keep climbing higher, and I'm stuck here trying to catch up with a paycheck that refuses to grow. Every morning, I wake up to this dull, heavy anxiety, the kind that sits right on your chest and makes it hard to breathe sometimes. I think about the rent that's due, the utility bills, the grocery shopping, my phone bill, the unexpected expenses that always seem to pop up like bad surprises. And then I check my bank account, and I know I have to make choices again. Do I buy food that's healthy but expensive? Or do I grab the cheap stuff that makes my stomach feel heavy and unsatisfied but won't stretch my budget? Do I skip the bus fare one day and walk an extra mile in the cold to save $5? Or do I bite the bullet and hope that next week, I'll have a little more wiggle room? This constant decision-making wears me down. It's not just about the money itself, it's the feeling that no matter what I do, I'm always behind. Like I'm living in a system designed to keep people exactly where they are, just barely scraping by, just barely surviving. I've read about inflation, wage stagnation, cost of living increases, but living it? It's something else. It's the slow erosion of hope and energy. Some days, I feel so exhausted that I don't even want to think about it. I'll binge watch a show on my tiny laptop, or scroll through social media and see pictures of friends traveling or buying new things, and it stings more than I want to admit. I'm happy for them, truly, but it also reminds me of the life I've had to put on hold. I was supposed to move out of this cramped apartment 2 years ago. I wanted to go back to school, maybe study something I'm passionate about, or even just get better at my current job to finally make a decent salary. I dreamed about vacations, about weekends spent relaxing without checking my bank balance every hour. Instead, I feel trapped. Like I'm in a cage made of bills, debt, and rising prices, with no clear way out. The rent on this apartment has gone up twice since I moved in. Utilities keep creeping higher. Groceries that used to cost $20 now cost $30, then $40. My paycheck barely budges. My company gives out occasional raises, but they're tiny, not enough to make a dent in all the increases. I'm working harder, sometimes longer hours, just to tread water. I've thought a lot about the emotional toll this takes. The stress, the anxiety, the shame sometimes. I try to hide it, I don't want my family to worry, or my friends to see me struggle. But it's hard not to feel isolated when your world revolves around scarcity. It changes how you interact with people, how you view yourself. I find myself saying no to invitations because I can't afford to go out. I avoid buying gifts, even for close friends, because it feels irresponsible to spend money I don't have. I have to keep reminding myself that this isn't a personal failing, but a reality for millions of people. Still, the loneliness creeps in. Coping with it isn't easy. I try to keep a budget, tracking every cent, but sometimes it feels like a battle I can't win. I talk to a few close friends about how I'm feeling, that helps, knowing I'm not completely alone. I picked up small side gigs, freelancing when I can, though the extra income is sporadic and exhausting. And I remind myself of small wins, paying off a credit card, getting a slightly better deal on insurance, finally affording a small treat like a coffee out once a month. But even with these little victories, the future feels uncertain. I worry about what comes next. What if prices keep rising? What if my job disappears? What if I can't keep up anymore? I think about the dreams I had, back when everything seemed possible, and it hurts to admit I've put so many of them on hold. Traveling, saving for a home, starting a family someday, all these things seem distant, maybe even impossible. Yet, despite everything, I hold on to hope. It's fragile, yes, but it's there. I remind myself that this moment doesn't define my whole life. That maybe one day the economic tide will shift, and I'll have the chance to breathe easier, to dream again without the weight of constant financial pressure. I keep pushing forward, even if it's just one small step at a time. Because giving up isn't an option, not really. So here I am, living in the tension between survival and aspiration, between the exhaustion of the present and the faint glimmer of a better future. It's not the story I imagined for myself, but it's mine, honest, vulnerable, and real. And maybe, by sharing it, I'm a little less alone. It's funny how money, or the lack of it, can creep into every corner of your life without you even noticing at first. I'm 27, and for the past several years, financial pressure has been like a constant, unwelcome companion, quiet but persistent. It's shaped my days, my decisions, and sometimes, my very sense of self. I grew up thinking that if I worked hard enough, I'd be fine. That's what everyone told me, right? Work hard, get a decent job, build a future. But here I am, years out of college, juggling jobs, and trying to keep my head above water while the cost of everything seems to climb relentlessly. Rent, groceries, transportation, insurance, prices soar, but my income barely budges. It feels like running on a treadmill that's speeding up, and no matter how fast I run, I'm stuck in the same place. My daily routine is like walking a tightrope, and every decision has a price tag. Do I buy groceries now or pay my phone bill? Can I afford the bus fare this week, or should I start walking again? I've cut back on everything non-essential. No nights out, no new clothes, no vacations, not even a coffee from a cafe anymore. Even small things feel like luxuries I can't afford. It's exhausting, and it's draining in ways I never anticipated. The psychological toll is heavy. There's a constant knot in my stomach, a low hum of anxiety that never quite fades. Every unexpected expense feels like a punch to the gut, a car repair, a medical bill, or even something as simple as replacing a worn-out pair of shoes. I'm always worried, always planning, but the margin for error is razor thin. Sometimes, I lie awake at night wondering if I'm doing enough, if I'll ever get ahead, or if this will be my life forever. It's isolating, too. I often turn down invitations to hang out because I can't afford the cost, and I hate feeling like I'm missing out on life while everyone else seems to move forward. There's guilt, too, guilt for not being able to help family or friends when they need it, for constantly saying no. The weight of it can feel crushing, and I'm learning to be honest about how much this financial pressure affects my mental health. I cope the best way I can. I've become an expert in budgeting and stretching every dollar. I've learned to live frugally, meal prepping, using coupons, shopping secondhand. I take on freelance gigs when I can, trying to squeeze extra income from odd jobs, but it's never quite enough. And there are days when the stress feels unbearable, when I just want to give up, but I remind myself that this is temporary, that I have to keep going. What hurts most is the dreams I've had to put on hold. I wanted to move out on my own years ago, to have a place that felt like mine. I dreamed of traveling, seeing the world beyond the city where I grew up. I thought about going back to school, investing in myself to build a better future. But these hopes feel like distant stars, beautiful but unreachable right now. I tell myself it's just a pause, but sometimes it's hard not to feel like I'm losing time. Despite everything, I hold on to hope. I remind myself that this financial pressure doesn't define me, even if it feels like it sometimes. I believe in a future where I can breathe easier, where I can chase my dreams instead of postponing them. I want to live fully, without the constant weight of money dragging me down. Sharing this feels vulnerable, but maybe it helps to know that I'm not alone. That many of us are trying to navigate this impossible landscape together. The system feels broken, where costs rise faster than incomes, and so many of us feel stuck. But by speaking honestly, I hope we can find strength and, maybe one day, change. For now, I keep moving forward. Step by step, paycheck by paycheck, hope by hope. I'm 29, and every day I wake up feeling like I'm trapped in a game rigged against me. It's this endless loop where expenses climb higher and higher, but my income stays stubbornly the same, or worse, doesn't keep up at all. It's exhausting, and honestly, sometimes it feels hopeless. When I got my first full-time job, I was optimistic. I had a degree, a plan, and dreams, big ones. I imagined moving out on my own, maybe buying a car, saving for travel, and eventually owning a place of my own. But reality hit hard. Rent alone gobbles up more than half of what I make, and every month I'm juggling bills that seem to stretch beyond what my paycheck can cover. Electricity, internet, groceries, gas, they're all creeping up, like they have a mind of their own. Inflation isn't just a headline, it's my daily headache. Making decisions now is a constant calculation. I ask myself, can I afford to eat out tonight, or should I stick to leftovers again? Do I drive to work and risk spending more on gas, or take the bus and sacrifice hours of sleep? Do I buy medicine now, or hope I can wait until next payday? Even small choices carry weight, and it's draining. I feel like my life is ruled by numbers on a spreadsheet, not by dreams or joy. There's this pressure, this feeling of suffocation, knowing that no matter how hard I work, it won't be enough. Expenses keep growing faster than my income, and I'm stuck running just to stay in place. I've tried asking for raises, looking for better jobs, even switching industries, but the opportunities are scarce, and often require more education or experience I can't afford to get. The system feels designed to keep people like me from moving up. I'm stuck. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster. I carry anxiety almost every day, about money, about the future, about disappointing those who believe in me. Sometimes, the stress wakes me up at night. I've felt embarrassed and ashamed when I can't join friends for something simple like a dinner or a movie. It makes me withdraw, feeling isolated. I don't want to explain my struggles to others, because I don't want pity, and I'm afraid they won't understand. I cope by cutting back wherever I can. I live in a tiny apartment with roommates I barely see, cook the same few cheap meals, and skip things that others take for granted, like doctor's visits or new clothes. I take on side gigs when I can, even if they eat up my weekends and energy. I've learned to live with discomfort and uncertainty as a baseline, but it takes a toll. The dreams I had? They're still there, but I've had to push them farther and farther into the future. Buying a home feels like a joke. How can I save a down payment when rent eats half my salary? Going back to school to improve my career prospects? Maybe someday, but not while I'm barely scraping by. Travel, hobbies, even starting a family, they feel like luxuries I can't afford. It hurts to admit that, but it's the truth. I want to believe things will get better. I want to think I'm not just another statistic caught in an economic trap. Some days I feel hopeful, maybe a promotion, a lucky break, a change in policy could help. Other days I feel crushed by the reality that the system seems built to keep people like me struggling, and I wonder how much longer I can hold on. But despite it all, I keep going. I remind myself that my worth isn't tied to my bank account, even though it feels that way sometimes. I try to find moments of joy where I can, in books, in conversations, in quiet mornings before the world wakes up. I'm still here, still fighting, still dreaming, even if those dreams feel distant. This isn't just my story, it's the story of so many people who feel stuck, overlooked, and exhausted by a system that's moving too fast and never seems to give them a break. I hope one day, things change, not just for me, but for all of us who just want a chance to breathe, to live without constant fear of financial collapse, to hope again. Until then, I hold on. One day at a time. I wake up every morning with this tight knot in my chest. It's not just anxiety, it's the slow, grinding pressure of knowing I'm caught in a cycle that I can't seem to escape. My name's Alex, I'm 26, and for as long as I can remember, money has been this shadow looming over everything I do. It's funny how some people talk about financial stress like it's just a bad week or a missed paycheck. For me, it's a constant, a quiet, persistent weight that makes every decision feel like a gamble, even the small ones. I live in a city where rent climbs faster than most people's salaries. My tiny apartment, which I used to think was cozy, now feels more like a cage. Each month, I log into my bank app and stare at the number that barely seems to move, while my expenses keep inching up. Utilities, groceries, transportation, even my phone bill, everything gets a little more expensive every few months. And there I am, trying to patch the gaps, like I'm building a dam with paper towels. The system is broken, or maybe it's just designed to wear you down. I don't know. I graduated college with a degree I was proud of, thinking it would be my ticket to a better life. But the job market was tight, and the few opportunities one found barely covered the basics, let alone the student loans stacking up in the background. Sometimes I catch myself daydreaming about the life I imagined, a small apartment but with space to breathe, maybe a weekend trip somewhere, a little savings tucked away for emergencies or something fun. Instead, I spend a lot of time calculating, which bills can I delay? Which ones do I have to pay today, or risk late fees? Should I cook at home or grab a cheap takeout? It feels like a game where the rules change every day, and I'm always one step behind. What's hardest is how invisible this kind of pressure can be. People see me, maybe think I'm just fine. I smile, I work hard, I keep my head down. But inside, there's this exhaustion that never really leaves. It's not just physical tiredness, it's emotional. I feel trapped in a loop where no matter how many hours I put in, how careful I am, I'm just treading water. I remember nights lying awake, stomach tight, wondering if I should ask for help. But pride and fear keep me quiet. Asking means admitting I'm not okay, and sometimes it feels like no one really knows how to help. To cope, I've learned to celebrate tiny victories. Like making it through the week without overdrafting my account. Or finding a sale on something I need. I treat myself to small things when I can, a coffee, a second-hand book, as if they're little trophies that remind me I'm still here, still trying. I've also started journaling, writing out my frustrations and hopes. Sometimes just putting the words on paper feels like breathing in fresh air. I've had to postpone a lot of dreams. Travel? Forget it. Buying a car? That feels like a luxury for someone else. Even thinking about saving for retirement is laughable when the next month's rent is already a mountain. I used to want to go back to school for a master's degree, but the thought of taking on more debt terrifies me. Relationships are tricky too. It's hard to imagine building a future with someone when your own future feels so uncertain. Still, I hold on to hope. Not the flashy, overnight success kind, but a quiet hope that one day, the system might shift, or maybe I'll find a way to break free of this cycle. I dream of waking up and not feeling that knot in my chest, of having space to breathe and plan without panic. I want to live in a place where I'm not constantly counting pennies, where I can say yes to things without anxiety. It feels far away, but it's there. Until then, I take it day by day. I remind myself that surviving this, enduring it, makes me stronger. I try to be kind to myself even when the world isn't. And I hold on to the belief that my story isn't over, that beyond this pressure, there's still a life waiting for me to claim. That's my reality, messy, hard, and sometimes heartbreaking, but still filled with a stubborn flicker of hope. I never imagined my 20s would feel like this, like I'm stuck underwater, fighting to reach the surface, but the weight of bills, rent, and endless expenses pulling me deeper every single day. It's a strange kind of exhaustion that settles in your bones when money always feels just out of reach, no matter how hard you push. It's not just about the numbers, though. It's about the way it shapes every choice I make, every hope I hold, and every night I lie awake wondering if I'll ever catch a break. I graduated college full of dreams and ideas, eager to start my life, build a career, and maybe even travel before settling down. But almost immediately, reality hit me with a harsh lesson: the economy doesn't care about dreams. It cares about dollars. And those dollars, for me, have been shrinking or just barely keeping up while everything else, rent, groceries, utilities, even transportation, keeps climbing, like an endless mountain that grows steeper every day. I work 2 part-time jobs, neither of which pays much. I'm lucky enough to have stable employment in a market where many don't, but the paychecks barely stretch. I've learned to ration everything: meals, trips to the doctor, even social outings. Friends invite me out, and I want to say yes, but I hesitate because even a simple dinner or coffee feels like a luxury I can't afford. It's isolating. There's a loneliness in missing out on moments that others seem to take for granted. I've cut back on so much: no new clothes unless absolutely necessary, no weekend getaways, no spontaneous purchases. The thrill of a sale feels bittersweet because even a discount sometimes exceeds what I can comfortably spend. I'm constantly balancing priorities. Do I pay a little more this month for electricity, or can I stretch it and risk the lights flickering off? Do I buy fresh fruits and vegetables or lean on cheaper, less nutritious options? It's a mental tug-of-war that never stops, and the stress is exhausting. Sometimes, I feel ashamed. I look around and see peers buying homes, upgrading cars, or starting families. Meanwhile, I'm counting pennies just to keep the lights on and the fridge stocked. It's easy to fall into comparison traps and feel like I'm failing, but deep down I know the system is broken, not me. The cost of living has surged far beyond wages, and the safety nets meant to catch people like me are threadbare at best. I've become an expert in making do, but that expertise is its own kind of trap. My mental health has taken a hit. There's a persistent knot of anxiety in my chest, a dull ache of worry that never quite fades. Sometimes I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, haunted by the question, what if something unexpected happens? A car repair, a medical emergency, or losing a job, any one of these could send me spiraling. Sleep doesn't always come easy when your brain refuses to switch off the what-ifs. Yet, amidst the pressure, I find small ways to cope. I've started journaling, pouring my fears and frustrations onto paper. It's a release valve that helps me untangle the chaos in my head. I also try to find moments of joy in simple things, morning coffee brewed at home, a walk in the park, or a phone call with a friend who understands the struggle. These small pockets of peace keep me going, reminding me that life still holds beauty even in hardship. I'm painfully aware of the dreams I've had to postpone. The idea of moving out of my cramped apartment into a place I can call my own feels distant, almost surreal. I've shelved plans for further education, not because I don't want to learn, but because I can't afford the tuition and lost wages. Travel, once a passion, now seems like an indulgence beyond my reach. These sacrifices weigh heavily, like a silent grief for a future that might never come. But I hold on to hope, fragile as it is. I remind myself that this isn't a life sentence. Economic storms can pass, and I can build a better foundation over time. I'm learning to advocate for myself, seeking resources, and networking to find better opportunities. Sometimes hope is a quiet, stubborn ember, glowing faintly but refusing to go out. In the end, I want people to understand what it's like behind the statistics and headlines, the human experience of being caught in an economic system that feels rigged against you. It's not just about money, it's about dignity, security, and the simple right to dream without the constant weight of worry. I'm still here, still fighting, still hoping for a day when financial pressure doesn't dictate every breath I take. That day feels far away, but for now, I breathe in the small victories and keep moving forward, even if it's just one careful step at a time. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I remember the first time I really felt the weight of money squeezing my life into smaller and smaller spaces. It was a Thursday morning, and I was sitting at my kitchen table, staring at a stack of bills that seemed to grow taller overnight. Rent, utilities, credit card minimums, phone bill, all due by the end of the week, with barely enough left in my account to cover groceries. I sat there, feeling overwhelmed but numb, like this was the way life was supposed to be. But inside, a quiet panic was growing. How had I ended up here, where every decision feels like a gamble I'm destined to lose? I'm 26, and I've been working steady jobs since I graduated college 4 years ago. Yet no matter how many hours I put in, my paycheck barely covers my expenses, and somehow, my costs keep climbing. The rent in my city has shot up again this year, groceries feel like they cost twice as much as they used to, and my car, essential for getting to work, keeps needing repairs. It's like running a race where the finish line moves further away each time I take a step. My income is stagnant, but everything else isn't. This economic environment, with inflation eating away at wages, rent soaring beyond reach, and jobs offering no security, shapes every part of my life. Even the small things are weighted with financial consequence. I debate buying a coffee on the way to work, not because I don't want one, but because it's a $3 decision that feels irresponsible when my bank balance hovers so close to zero. Going out with friends means factoring in the cost of transportation, a meal, a round of drinks, things I used to take for granted. I find myself declining invitations more often than not, explaining with a forced smile that I'm trying to save. At times, I feel trapped in a system designed to keep people like me stuck. Expenses seem to grow faster than income, a relentless tide that drowns any hope of real progress. I'm paying off student loans while juggling credit card debt, and every month, the interest eats away at what little I have left. I'm caught between being responsible, paying bills on time, maintaining credit, and trying to keep some quality of life. It's exhausting. The emotional toll is harder to explain, even to myself. There's a low-level anxiety that lives under my skin, a constant hum of worry that spikes whenever an unexpected expense appears. A doctor's visit, a car repair, or even a friend asking to borrow money sets off a storm of stress and self-doubt. Sometimes I lie awake at night, my mind racing through worst-case scenarios, questioning every choice I made. Am I doing enough? Should I be working more? Is this how it's always going to be? I've learned to cope by becoming hyper-aware of my finances, tracking every penny, meal prepping to save money, shopping secondhand, and taking on side gigs whenever possible. It's not glamorous, and honestly, it's draining. I miss the freedom to make spontaneous decisions, to indulge in simple pleasures without guilt. I try to hold on to moments of joy, but they often come tinged with a shadow of worry. There's also the pain of postponed dreams. I've had to shelve plans that once felt so achievable. The idea of moving into my own apartment feels like a distant fantasy, given how steep rents have become. Traveling, something I once thought essential to my growth, feels out of reach. Even going back to school to pursue a career shift feels like a risk I can't afford. These aren't just dreams, they're pieces of the life I imagined for myself. Having to put them on hold feels like losing parts of who I am. Yet, amidst the pressure and the sacrifices, I try to keep hope alive. I remind myself that this season, as difficult as it is not permanent. I cling to the belief that if I keep working, keep saving, and keep trying, things can get better. I dream of a day when I won't have to make decisions solely based on money, when I can focus on growth instead of survival. Sharing this story is an act of vulnerability, but I want others to know they're not alone. The financial struggles of my generation aren't about personal failure, they're symptoms of a larger system that often feels rigged against us. If we can talk openly, support each other, and push for change, maybe we can find a way out together. For now, I'll keep taking it day by day, paycheck by paycheck, holding on to whatever hope I can find. Because even when trapped, the human spirit wants to break free. It's late, and here I am again, staring at my bank account on my phone. The number blinks back at me, a little lower than last week, but still hanging on, barely. I feel this tightness in my chest, the familiar weight of worry settling in like an unwelcome guest who never leaves. I'm 27, working full-time, and yet, it feels like I'm barely keeping afloat in a world that's moving faster than I can run. Every day feels like a tightrope walk over a bottomless pit. The cost of living keeps climbing, rent, groceries, utilities, gas, but my paycheck stays mostly the same. Sometimes, I wonder if anyone outside this pressure cooker bubble really understands what that's like, waking up every morning to a list of things you need but can't afford, having to choose between eating well or paying for electricity, or skipping doctor appointments because a copay could break the fragile balance I've managed to keep for a month. The system feels like a trap. I work 2 jobs, putting in more hours than I ever expected, but it's like I'm filling a bucket with a hole in the bottom. The bills keep coming, always bigger, faster than what I earn. It's exhausting to constantly chase your own tail, and it wears on your spirit. I see my friends posting about vacations, new cars, weekend brunches, little luxuries that look like normal parts of life but feel miles away from my reality. This financial pressure affects everything. Every decision, big or small, is a calculation of survival. Should I fill my gas tank this week or put that money towards groceries? Can I afford to replace my phone if it breaks? What about saving for a future that feels like it's receding further and further? Sometimes I feel like my life has become a series of no's and not yets. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster. There's the crushing anxiety about what happens if I lose one job, or if an unexpected expense comes up. The shame of turning down invitations because I just can't afford it. The loneliness that sneaks in because money controls access to so much social connection. I felt hopeless, stuck in a place where progress feels impossible. Some nights, I lie awake wondering if I'll ever be able to breathe without that constant pressure weighing on me. I cope the best I can. I've become a master of budgeting, clipping coupons, buying second-hand clothes, and cooking cheap meals that barely change week to week. I picked up side gigs online, anything to squeeze out a bit more income. I'm grateful for the little moments of reprieve, a kind word from a coworker, a quiet walk in the park, a good book that lets me escape for a while. But these are just patches on a wound that never fully heals. The dreams I once had feel postponed indefinitely. Owning a home? Saving for a wedding? Starting a family? Traveling the world? Those ideas used to feel real, like achievable milestones. Now, they're distant stars I barely allow myself to look at, because the pain of longing is too sharp. I tell myself, maybe someday. But someday keeps slipping away as I sink deeper into this financial quicksand. Still, I hold on to hope. I believe there is more than this daily grind, that things can change. I remind myself I'm not alone, so many others are caught in this same struggle. And I try to be kind to myself, even when it feels like the world isn't. This isn't just about money, it's about dignity, about the chance to live fully, without constant fear and sacrifice. I share this story because I want people to see what it's like inside the quiet desperation of financial pressure. Not just statistics or headlines, but real lives, with real dreams and real heartbreak. Maybe if more people understood, there would be more empathy, more action, more change. Until then, I keep going, one day, $1, one small victory at a time. I never thought I'd feel this way at 27, like I'm stuck in quicksand, sinking slower than I'm moving, but sinking nonetheless. Every day, I wake up with this heavy knot in my chest, not from some catastrophic event, but from the quiet, relentless pressure of money slipping through my fingers like water. It's not just that I'm broke, it's the way everything feels designed to keep me just barely afloat, never quite able to get ahead. Growing up, I always believed if I worked hard enough, if I stayed focused and made smart choices, I'd be able to build a life that felt stable. But the economy, well, it's a beast that doesn't care about those dreams. Rent has climbed so high that even sharing a tiny, run-down apartment with a roommate feels like a luxury. Groceries, utilities, gas, student loan payments, they all chip away at my paycheck faster than I can replenish it. Every month, the math just doesn't add up the way it's supposed to. Expenses grow exponentially, income grows in painful increments, if at all. Some mornings I stare at the ceiling and wonder if this is the best life I can hope for. I think about my friends who bought homes, started families, traveled the world. They seem like characters in a story I'm only watching from the sidelines. Meanwhile, I'm juggling 2 part-time jobs, trying to pick up freelance gigs when I can, but it never feels like enough. The hours are long, the work's exhausting, and the reward is a paycheck that disappears almost as soon as it arrives. What really gets me is how this constant financial stress seeps into everything else. It's hard to sleep when you're calculating your bank balance in your head. It's hard to laugh when you're worried about the phone bill or a car repair you can't afford. I find myself shrinking away from social invitations because going out means spending money I don't have, or worse, missing out and feeling isolated. It's this paradox of wanting connection but feeling trapped by the very thing that should enable it. Sometimes, I catch myself daydreaming, dangerous, maybe. I used to dream of traveling, seeing new places, learning new things, maybe even starting my own business one day. I thought I had time to explore, to experiment, to fail and try again. But those dreams have been pushed back, postponed indefinitely. Instead of planning adventures, I'm planning my next paycheck, my next grocery run, my next utility bill. And with every postponed dream, a little piece of hope dims. I cope the best I can. Sometimes that means cutting corners in ways that don't feel great, skipping meals, driving my car until it barely runs, stretching out clothes longer than I should. Sometimes I just try to distract myself with music or books or late-night walks to clear my mind. I lean on a few close friends who understand, who don't judge when I can't afford to do more than sit quietly. But there's a loneliness to this kind of pressure, a loneliness I never expected. I'm not looking for pity. I'm not the only one living like this, and I know that. But it's exhausting, and I think it's important to say out loud, the system isn't working for people like me. It's a system where wages don't keep pace with costs, where financial literacy and hard work don't guarantee stability, where you're punished for being born into the wrong circumstances or having the wrong zip code. Some days, I still believe things can get better. I remind myself that I'm more than my bank account balance, that my worth isn't measured in dollars. I hold on to the idea that if I can just keep going, keep learning, keep pushing, maybe someday I'll break free from this cycle. Maybe I'll find a job that pays a living wage, maybe I'll save enough to move somewhere safer and cheaper, maybe I'll finally breathe without this weight on my chest. Until then, I keep going. I keep balancing the impossible equation, hoping for a break, hoping for change. Because even when the world feels like it's closing in, the tiniest flicker of hope is what keeps me moving forward. That's what it's like, being trapped in a system where expenses rise like a tide and income is a fragile boat barely staying afloat. It's frustrating, isolating, and sometimes devastating. But it's also real. And if I'm honest, it's my story. I never thought I'd find myself stuck in this kind of endless loop, where every paycheck feels like it slips through my fingers the moment it lands. But here I am, 27, working full-time, yet constantly feeling like I'm treading water in a storm that's only getting worse. The cost of living keeps climbing, faster than I can keep up with, and every day feels like a test of endurance and resilience that I didn't sign up for. I wake up in a small apartment that's just big enough to hold me and the bare minimum. The rent alone devours more than half of what I earn, and the rest has to stretch over groceries, bills, transportation, and a few scattered, small comforts. Sometimes I stare at the numbers in my bank app, the balance blinking back like a ticking clock, counting down to when it'll finally hit zero before the next deposit. It's exhausting, and it's relentless. I remember when I first moved out of my parents' house, full of hope, determination, and dreams that I could build a life on my own terms. I imagined going back to school, maybe changing careers to something I truly loved. I dreamed of traveling, of buying my own home someday, of saving up enough to not have to panic every time something unexpected came up, like a car repair or a medical bill. But that dream feels further away with each passing month, buried beneath layers of financial pressure and growing expenses. Every decision is weighed against the dollar sign. Should I buy that nice jacket I need for work, or keep wearing the one I have until it falls apart? Should I eat out with friends and keep some semblance of a social life, or save the money and stay in again? Even the little things, like turning on the heat when it's cold, or buying a coffee on the way to work, feel like luxuries that have to be calculated, not enjoyed. I sometimes wonder what it's like to not have to think about money with every choice. The economic environment outside feels like a storm that's not just happening to me but to everyone around me, yet somehow I feel incredibly isolated in it. When I scroll through social media, I see people posting about new cars, vacations, dinners out, and the comparison stings. I remind myself that what's posted online is a highlight reel, but the feeling of being left behind seeps in anyway. It's hard not to feel like I'm failing in some fundamental way, that maybe I'm not smart enough, or not working hard enough, or not lucky enough. And the emotional toll is heavy. There's a constant underlying anxiety that never quite lets up. It wakes me up in the middle of the night, imagining bills piling up, imagining a sudden expense that could push me over the edge. It's a slow burn, this kind of stress. It doesn't explode in dramatic moments but settles into my bones like a dull ache. I sometimes feel guilty for the relief I get when I see my paycheck arrive, like it's never really enough, but I cling to it as if it's a lifeline. I've had to put a lot of my dreams on hold, and that hurts more than I thought it would. I love writing, always have, and I imagined pursuing it more seriously, maybe even publishing a book someday. But the time and energy I'd want to devote to that are swallowed up by the constant grind. I've also pushed aside the idea of going back to school, because the thought of more debt terrifies me. Instead, I've taken on side gigs here and there, odd jobs that pay in cash, anything to keep the wheels turning. But it's a balancing act that leaves me drained. Sometimes, I cope by retreating into small routines that remind me of stability and comfort. I cook simple meals from scratch, which saves money but also feels grounding. I walk instead of taking the bus when I can, even if it takes longer, because the quiet time lets me think. I keep a journal, scribbling down frustrations and hopes, trying to remind myself that this isn't permanent. That there is a future beyond this struggle. There are moments when I feel hopeful, when I imagine a time when I'm free from this pressure, when I can breathe without counting expenses. I picture a small house with a garden, a job that feels meaningful, friendships nurtured without the stress of financial strain. I think about the freedom to take a weekend trip or buy a gift for someone I care about without guilt. These dreams keep me going, even when the weight of reality feels unbearable. But I also know that hope alone isn't enough. I try to be honest with myself about what I need to change, whether it's learning new skills, building a better budget, or finding communities that understand and support me. I remind myself that it's okay to ask for help, even if it's hard to admit how tough it is. Because beneath the vulnerability, there's resilience, a stubborn flicker of determination not to be defined by the system that's squeezing me. The financial pressure doesn't just affect my bank account, it shapes how I see myself and my place in the world. It challenges my sense of security, my confidence, and sometimes my worth. But it also teaches me about endurance, about finding light in small moments, about the importance of holding on to dreams even when life demands postponement. This is my truth, raw, complicated, and ongoing. And I share it because I know I'm not alone, even when it feels like I am. There are so many of us caught in this grind, hoping for a break, hoping for a future where we can finally say, I'm okay. Until then, I keep going, one day, one decision, one small hope at a time. There are days when it feels like I'm sinking, and no matter how hard I paddle, the surface keeps slipping further away. That's how life has been for me lately, caught in this endless struggle where money feels like a cage rather than a tool, where expenses outpace every paycheck, and where the dream of stability seems just out of reach. I'm 27, working 2 jobs, and somehow, I'm still behind. The economic world around me feels like it's moving too fast, and I'm stuck running to keep up, but never actually catching ground. Inflation's eaten away my rent savings before I could even build them. The cost of groceries, utilities, transportation, all climbing month after month. But my income? It hasn't changed much since I started this job 2 years ago. It's as if the system is designed to keep me treading water, barely able to breathe, always one emergency away from tipping over. Every day, I'm forced to make decisions that chip away at my peace of mind. Do I pay the credit card bill in full this month or just the minimum, knowing I'll owe even more next time? Can I afford to buy groceries that aren't on sale, or will I have to survive on whatever's cheapest and least nutritious? Should I say no to that night out with friends, even though I desperately want connection and normalcy? These choices, small to others, feel monumental to me. I feel trapped. Like I'm inside a machine with no off switch. Expenses grow faster than my income. Rent hikes before I get a raise, medical bills after a surprise doctor visit, the car that broke down just as winter arrived. The weight of these costs feels relentless. Some months, I consider giving up on trying to get ahead at all. Why work so hard just to stay in place? But then, what choice do I have? To stop trying is to accept the cage fully. The emotional toll is invisible but heavy. I carry a low hum of anxiety almost constantly. Nights are the worst. My mind spins with what ifs. What if the car needs more repairs? What if I lose my job? What if I can't cover rent next month? Sometimes it makes me feel physically ill. I catch myself avoiding calls, emails, even people, because every interaction feels like a potential demand or burden I can't afford. I've had to become hypervigilant. Budgeting is a full-time job in itself, clipping coupons, tracking every expense, skipping anything non-essential, and still barely scraping by. I work extra shifts, pick up freelance gigs when I can, and still the numbers don't add up. I've learned to live without many things I once thought necessary: regular meals out, weekend trips, even hobbies that cost money. These aren't just lifestyle changes, they're losses. Pieces of joy and identity put on hold indefinitely. One of the hardest parts is postponing dreams. I wanted to move out on my own years ago, create a home that was mine, not shared or temporary. That dream feels like a distant luxury now. I thought about going back to school, but with the price of tuition and my current debts, it's a gamble I can't afford. I had plans to travel, to explore, to find experiences that might inspire and change me, but those are locked away behind financial walls too high to scale. Sometimes I resent the system for being so unforgiving, so rigged. It's exhausting to be told to just work harder when I'm already working myself to the bone. But I also know resentment alone won't free me. So, I hold on to hope in small ways: the kindness of a friend who offers a free meal, the satisfaction of finally paying off a small debt, the rare moments of laughter when the stress feels a little lighter. I want to believe that this is temporary, that the grind will pay off someday. I want to believe that the sacrifices, the postponements, and the constant worry are steps on a path towards something better. For now, I'm learning to be kind to myself, to recognize that surviving this system is a feat in itself. I'm trying to remind myself that while the cage feels real, it doesn't have to define me or my future. This story isn't just mine. It's the story of so many young adults caught in the same relentless cycle, trying to make sense of a world that demands more than it gives. If you're reading this and feeling the same way, know you're not alone. We're in this together, trying to keep hope alive, one day at a time. Some days, I feel like I'm stuck inside a glass box. You know the kind, clear enough for you to see the world outside, but sealed tight so nothing from outside can get in, and nothing from inside can get out. I'm 26, working 2 jobs, and no matter how much I hustle, I'm barely moving forward. Every day feels like a race where the finish line keeps shifting farther away, and I'm too exhausted to keep chasing. When I graduated college, I was hopeful. I thought a degree would open doors, that if I worked hard, I could build a stable life. But the economy wasn't on my side. Inflation took a bite out of every paycheck before I even saw it. Rent skyrocketed, groceries cost more than they used to, and suddenly the bills I'd planned for doubled or tripled. My salary stayed flat. It's like I'm in a game where the rules keep changing and I'm always a step behind. Each morning, I face the same mental checklist: how much money do I have? What bills must be paid this week? Can I afford the bus fare or will I have to walk? Sometimes I skip meals just so I can pay the electricity bill. It's humiliating and exhausting. The pressure weighs heavy, and sometimes I feel like I'm suffocating under it. Anxiety and shame sneak in quietly but relentlessly. I'm scared of losing my job because then I really wouldn't know what to do. I feel isolated because my friends don't have to agonize over every purchase the way I do. I've had to make choices no one should have to make. I postponed going to the dentist because the copay was too high. I put off therapy sessions even though I knew I needed the support. The emergency savings I tried to build vanished in a few months when my car broke down and I had to get it fixed to get to work. I've given up on dreams I held close: buying a home, traveling, even having enough saved to start a family someday. Those things feel so distant, almost impossible, and every time I think about them, the weight of disappointment pulls me down. I cope the best I can. I've become an expert at budgeting and bargain hunting. I meal prep to avoid eating out. I pick up odd jobs when I can, like freelancing online or babysitting. I try to find small joys: a walk in the park, a phone call with a friend, a moment of quiet. But even those feel tainted sometimes, because there's always a nagging reminder of what I can't have. Social media makes it worse, showing snapshots of lives that seem easy, full of freedom and fun. It's hard not to compare and feel like I'm falling behind. Emotionally, the toll is huge. The constant stress is exhausting. Some nights I lie awake, heart racing, wondering if this pressure will ever lift. It's a quiet kind of despair, one that doesn't always show on the surface but gnaws at you from the inside. I worry about my mental health, but therapy is a luxury I can't afford right now. I'm caught in a cycle where financial stress worsens emotional health, and emotional health affects my ability to work and earn. Yet, I still hold on to hope. I remind myself that this isn't forever. That maybe if the economy changes, or if I find a better job, or if something shifts, I'll get a chance to breathe. I try to be kind to myself, to celebrate the small wins, a paid bill, a day without crying, a meal on the table. I dream quietly now, more cautiously. Not of a mansion or fancy vacations, but a modest apartment I can call my own, a career that doesn't leave me drained, peace of mind. This story isn't just mine. It's shared by so many young adults caught in a system that feels rigged. I want people to understand how deeply financial pressure affects lives, not just in dollars but in dignity, in hope, in the ability to dream. It's more than numbers, it's about real people, real fears, and real sacrifices. So, I keep going, one day at a time. Trying to survive, trying to find light in the cracks. I don't know how to start this without sounding like I'm whining, but here it goes. Every day feels like I'm treading water, trying not to sink, but the waves just keep coming. The bills, the rent, the groceries, everything costs more than I expected, more than I can really handle. And my paycheck? It's barely keeping pace, if at all. Sometimes I wonder if I'm the only one who feels stuck like this, trapped in a system where the numbers just don't add up. I'm 27 now, and I work full-time at a small marketing firm. It's not glamorous, but it's steady, or it was steady, until the inflation started creeping up. The rent on my tiny apartment has jumped twice in the last year. The landlord says it's market adjustments, but to me, it just feels like a reminder that I'm disposable. Groceries have gotten so expensive that I've stopped buying fresh produce as much, even though I know it's better for me. I find myself staring at the price tags, calculating in my head how many meals I can stretch from one grocery run. That's become my new math homework. Sometimes I sit on my couch after work, scrolling through my bank app, counting pennies. It's a weird, humiliating feeling, like my financial worth is just a string of numbers on a screen, and it never feels enough. I avoid looking at the credit card balance, because the anxiety swells up in my chest when I do. I'm constantly juggling bills, trying to decide what gets paid this month and what I have to push to next month. Utilities, rent, phone bill, they all feel like urgent fires I'm just barely putting out. The thing is, it's not like I haven't tried. I picked up a second job for a while, working nights at a coffee shop. I was exhausted all the time, barely seeing my friends or family, but I thought maybe I could finally catch up on debt or save a little. That didn't last long. The extra hours drained me, and my main job started slipping because I was so tired. Eventually, I had to quit the second job to keep my main source of income stable. It was like being caught between two storms, and neither side gave me a break. I remember a time, not too long ago, when I used to dream freely. I wanted to travel, to move to a bigger city with more opportunities, to maybe even go back to school and get a degree that could open new doors. I was ambitious, hopeful. But now those dreams feel like distant islands, beautiful, but unreachable. Every time I think about saving up for a trip or investing in classes, I'm hit with the cold reality of an empty savings account and a calendar full of unpaid bills. It's not just the money, though. The constant pressure has taken a toll on my mental health. Some days I feel a knot of anxiety that never quite unties itself. I catch myself waking up in the middle of the night, heart racing, thinking about overdue payments or what will happen if I lose my job. The stress sometimes feels like a heavy fog that blurs out the good things in life. I know my friends and family care, but I don't always want to burden them with my worries. Plus, it's hard to explain this feeling of being trapped to people who don't live it. Coping is its own challenge. I've started journaling, just to get the swirl of thoughts out of my head. Writing helps, even if the words are raw and messy. Sometimes I walk around my neighborhood at night, just to feel a bit of space and quiet, even if my worries follow me. I've also found solace in little things, making coffee just right in the morning, or binge-watching shows that make me laugh, even if only for a moment. I think the hardest part is the feeling that no matter what I do, I'm running in place. The system feels designed for people to barely keep up, not really get ahead. I read news stories about rising costs, wage stagnation, and the widening gap between rich and poor, and it hits close to home. It's like I'm in a race where the finish line keeps moving farther away, and I'm running on empty. But I don't want to give up. Somewhere under the exhaustion and the bills, there's still a flicker of hope. I remind myself that this is just a chapter, not the whole story. I hold on to the idea that maybe one day, the effort will pay off. Maybe I'll find a better job, or maybe the economy will shift in a way that helps people like me. Maybe I'll finally take that trip, or go back to school, or just breathe a little easier. For now, I keep moving forward the best I can, even if it's one small, careful step at a time. And sometimes, when the noise quiets down, I close my eyes and imagine a future where money isn't the barrier it is now, a future where I can make choices based on dreams, not just survival. That hope, fragile as it is, keeps me going. Because if I lose that, what do I have left? That's the truth of it, and I'm saying it here, out loud, even if only to myself. I never thought I'd find myself here, sitting at my tiny kitchen table in this cramped apartment, staring at a pile of unopened bills, feeling like I'm drowning in numbers that don't add up. It's like no matter how hard I work, how many shifts I pick up, or how carefully I plan my spending, the weight of money slips further and further out of reach. The world around me seems to move on, faster, brighter, with everyone else somehow managing to keep up. Meanwhile, I'm stuck watching my paycheck get swallowed whole by rent, groceries, and the endless little costs that keep creeping up. I'm 27 now. When I was younger, I had dreams. I wanted to travel, maybe go back to school, buy a car, even start saving for a home one day. It seemed like a simple enough plan. But these days, it feels like I'm just trying to survive the next week, the next month, barely keeping my head above water. The economic pressure is a constant shadow, and it doesn't care if I'm tired, if I'm anxious, or if I'm just one unexpected expense away from breaking. Everything costs more now. Rent is the biggest hit. When I moved here 2 years ago, I thought my monthly rent was high but manageable. But every renewal, the landlord adds more. The price of groceries has shot up too. What used to be a modest cart of food is now enough to make me hesitate at the checkout line, second-guessing every item. Do I really need that avocado? Can I skip fresh fruit this week? There's this exhausting math I run through in my head every time I shop, trying to balance nutrition and cost without feeling like I'm shortchanging myself. I work in retail, a job I didn't exactly dream of but took because it pays the bills. Sometimes I pick up extra hours, even on my days off, but overtime is unpredictable and not guaranteed. I watch my friends posting about their weekend getaways or new gadgets with this mix of envy and guilt. Envy because they seem free, guilt because I feel like I'm not trying hard enough, even though I'm working myself to the bone. It's hard not to compare, but harder still to admit that this financial struggle isolates me. Bills don't wait. The utilities, phone, internet, all the basics I need to stay connected and functional, stack up, and if I fall behind, late fees pile on top. It feels like the system is designed to keep you tethered, paying just enough to stay afloat but never enough to get ahead. It's a trap where expenses grow faster than income, and you're scrambling just to keep pace, like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. Some days, the stress hits me in waves. I get this tightness in my chest, a heaviness that makes it hard to breathe or focus. Sleep doesn't come easy when your mind races with worries. How will I pay next month's rent? What if my hours get cut? Can I afford the bus fare this week? Anxiety isn't just an occasional visitor, it's become a constant companion. I've tried to talk about it with friends or family, but it's hard to explain when you don't want to seem like you're complaining or failing. To cope, I've learned to find small pockets of control. I make detailed budgets and track every penny, which sometimes helps me feel less powerless. I've cut back on almost everything that isn't essential. No dining out, no new clothes, no subscriptions. Even social outings have become rare because I just can't justify the expense. I've gotten really good at cooking simple meals and stretching leftovers, finding ways to make the little I have last longer. Still, it feels like a constant balancing act, and there's this gnawing fear that one slip, a broken phone, an emergency doctor visit, could send me spiraling. Despite all this, I try to hold on to hope. I remind myself that this isn't permanent, even if it feels that way some days. I'm still looking for better job opportunities, applying for scholarships to maybe go back to school. I daydream about the life I want, a steady income, a comfortable apartment, a chance to save for something more than just survival. Sometimes, late at night, I imagine waking up without that cloud of worry hanging over me. I picture traveling somewhere new, or finally buying that camera I've always wanted, or just having enough freedom to breathe. But those dreams have had to be postponed, again and again. They don't disappear, they just get pushed to the back of my mind, like a book I want to read but can't find time for. And I wonder if that's what growing up looks like for people like me, trading off dreams for daily reality, trying to keep your spirit alive in a world that constantly asks for more than you have. Being caught in this cycle feels like a slow erosion of self. It's exhausting, lonely, and sometimes humiliating. But sharing this, admitting how hard it really is, makes me feel less invisible. I'm not just a number or a statistic, I'm a person with hopes, fears, and a will to keep going, even when the system feels stacked against me. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that survival isn't just about money, it's about holding on to your humanity, even when life tries to strip it away. So I keep moving forward, step by step, day by day, hoping for the chance to rewrite my story, to live beyond these constraints, and to finally catch my breath. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.